Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's AEW Dynamite review show here on the unofficial WWE podcast. Today, it is a beautiful Thursday morning, Thursday, July 8th, 2021. My name is Mimi Burris, and we had Ashley Mann on here with us to review Road Rager, the awesome show from last night for the most part. We got into a whole lot trying to review the entire show. We are on a little bit of a time crunch, but of course, we went over because we have two wrestling fans here talking about wrestling, and that's usually what happens, as you guys all probably know, considering, the timestamps on most of these shows. But yeah, it was awesome to have her back on here, and we had a great conversation, so I hope you guys enjoy that. Before we get into that, I will quickly plug, obviously, we're on Patreon, 99 cents or $1. I always never know what it is, but it's something like that a month. And you get all these shows ad-free. You can also subscribe on iTunes now to get all these shows ad-free, along with exclusive content, including Wrestling Nostalgia. There's a What If show if you subscribe to the Raw tier, which is about $10 a month if I am correct. And yeah, and then I come on there every now and then, drop an exclusive show from time to time. So there's definitely a bunch of awesome stuff going on Patreon, and or if you just subscribe on iTunes. So go check all that out, and I will stop the plugs there, and we'll just get into this awesome conversation I had with Ashley again. So I'll talk to you guys next time.
Mr. Rudy Lee. Championship means that much. I can't believe what we're seeing here.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's AEW Dynamite review show. We're reviewing Road Rager. I don't know why I want to say that like William Regal says War Games. Road Rager. But we're reviewing Road Rager today. I'm here with Ashley Mann. Ashley, how are you doing?
Doing wonderful. It's so great to be back. Thank you for having me, Mimi. How are you?
I'm great, as always. Yeah, I mean, like we just said, we'll get into it. But overall, before we start, obviously, with the first match of the night, I just asked you your thoughts, and then I didn't get them. What were your thoughts overall of the show?
Yeah, you asked them, and then I totally got sidetracked. That's my fault. No, overall as a whole, it was a great show. It's so amazing how, and of course we'll get into it, but like the difference the crowd makes, right? And just like seeing them back in front of like an actual like live fan that's not Daly's plays, it's just so great. It just really adds to wrestling. Like wrestling is that sport that I call it a sport, whatever. Wrestling is that sport that needs fans probably more than any entity out there. So man, between that and just all the surprises that we got, it was a good time. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, I almost felt like I had to get used to it again. Like, it was a little bit weird with all the pauses and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. But I'm really happy. It was good to see that there was such a packed house, too, because obviously, you never know. I mean, you obviously know that there's been a lot of people tuning in every week, but buying a ticket and going to a show is a whole different thing. But overall, I mean, obviously, we're going to get into things, and there were some things that were just awful, I think, but there were some things that were really good, too. But I have to say, like, and I tweeted this last night, because I'm on the tweeter now, that pro wrestling is like such a special thing. And you said with the fans back, I had like, not to, I'll be short because I know we're on a time crunch here, but I found out I lost a family member last night, and I've been sick for the last week. And like, if you think the first thing you want to do is like crawl into bed, just go whatever, but like 2 hours of like being in the sandbox, as Matt always says, I was just like in total escape. It was like the most amazing thing that pro wrestling still has, like good storytelling. Pro wrestling still has the talent to do that, of just take you completely out of your life. And that I didn't get to ask you about too, with that being said, the video package of Daly's Place last week, I thought was done so well. I know, really emotional with the boots in the ring and all that stuff. So before we get into the show, I want to ask your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and really quick, I'm very sorry to hear that. Hope everything goes well, for everybody. Yeah, that's tough. But no, and just to piggyback off that real quick, I totally agree with you, and I know what you mean there. Like, wrestling was always the constant for me. Like, whenever something crappy happened, like, wrestling was always my escape. So that's why, like, I think of Raw, for instance, right? Like, no matter how crappy Raw gets, like, wrestling is just always my escape. So I kind of know what you mean there. It's just an escape room. So it's just, I hope everything goes well, but I totally know what you mean there. But man, that video package they did last week was so well done. And I know you listened to Busted Open. I'm not sure if you heard Tony's, they'd actually brought it up. I think it was, gosh, this week time's kind of weird, but like the follow-up, when they had him on there, they'd asked him about it, and he actually admitted that he's like very minute to minute, like rating wise, like he looks at everything, like everything down to the bare minute. And at first he said he was kind of concerned about throwing the video package on there at the last minute because he don't, want to lose like viewers or anything, but he ultimately obviously made the choice to air it. And I'm so happy that they did, and when they did, to close out the show, because it's just, man, like it's kind of crazy. Like it feels like it was a completely different lifetime from the beginning, when Cody was out there standing in the ring and Kenny and everyone, and just like pretty much setting us up and just like bracing us for with the next 15 or so months. But AEW, they are really gaining steam and momentum in their production side and just the video packages that they do. And I think amongst other things, but WWE may have a rival in the production value as well, because just everything that they incorporated, how they still included Brody Lee in it, and as prominently as they did. I just think it was a class act, and it's little things that like that just make you love AEW more, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they did an amazing job. I'm with you on that too. I have like a special love too for like just well edited video and things like that. And so I thought it was really, really special. As you were talking, actually, just fun news, not news, but I just all ego, Ethan Page just liked my tweet, so I'm complete. I don't need to do anything more in my life. If you guys listen to the show,
we can stop here.
I know
we're done.
Big Ethan Page fan, and if we have time, we'll obviously get into talking about next week's matches. But let's jump right into it before we continue talking about all the love for wrestling. So we started with Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in this trap match. QT Marshall did not get an entrance on TV, at least, but he was in the ring like it was like a squash match.
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes came out obviously and soaked in. And you know what? Cody Rhodes is gonna Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? And so I took it with that. But obviously a lot of back and forth, a lot of strap whipping, and some cool moves in this match. I'm not a big strap match person, but Cody Rhodes came away with the win, and I enjoyed this for the most part. So I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, and I actually have that written down too. I was surprised with just how big of a deal they've been like pushing this whole QT Marshall and Cody storyline. Marshall, right? Storyline. I was kind of surprised that they didn't have QT's entrance either. It was just kind of interesting to me. I like looking back on the show, it may have been like a time restraint thing because they packed so much into the show last night. I guess it's not really that big of a deal, but it did kind of stand out to me as well. But yeah, it was fine. It wasn't like my favorite strap match either, but I think it did its purpose in getting people excited for Cody and setting that out there. And I really like what they did now, of course, looking back on it as well with the whole lights. Because everyone, like, at first people were kind of giving them crap, like, and it's just so, like, Twitter is just a weird place, right? Well, you'll learn if you haven't already, but, like, you can go from being, like, everyone will be so positive to just pointing out any little thing. So some people are like, oh, like, there they go, they're low budget, the power's going out and stuff like that.
I love that.
Yeah, and it turns out, my opinion is it was all a setup, obviously, for what happened later, but I think even that was well done, and I'm happy this seems to be the end, and Cody's going to move on and just be done and just have a break from this finally.
Yeah, without a doubt. We'll obviously get into that too, but I love that. I didn't see any of that because, again, I didn't watch it live, but I love that Twitter did. People on Twitter were doing that. They were probably happy about that. That's probably exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And to kind of be like, huh, gotcha. But I'm with you. I'm not a big strap match person. Like I said before, I can't even say the name, so there's that. But I thought the ref did a really good job in this match. It's just a weird thing to point out. But, like when I think about our typical WWE strap matches, I think like it always ends in, all I can picture is like John Cena doing like the FU or attitude adjustment, whatever it was at the time, to like, I think it was like Umaga or something, and then hitting the fourth thing, like so much for uninterrupted four corners, whatever it's called. But so I love the ending to this match, I'll say that, with the spitting in the face, and then he touched all four corners, and the crowd seemed really into it, so it was over, and hopefully, with that being said too, this rivalry is over. And you know, when you're new in AEW, you face Cody Rhodes, so
Right.
we'll get into that too. But afterwards, we had Shawn Spears in the backstage cutting a promo, and then Sammy Guevara chucking a chair at him, and some weird dialogue that I didn't care to take any notes on or whatever. But I don't have much to say. I thought it felt very forced, but I am looking forward to that match. So just any thoughts on that?
No, like you, I feel like it was kind of forced as well. And it was kind of corny because he was literally, and I guess that was probably the point, but he was saying that he's always one step ahead of Sammy or something like that, and then Sammy throws the chair. It's just like, and he had to be so close, right? It was just, I just feel like it maybe wasn't necessary, and with everything else that they had, they probably could have like held this one out and just given that extra couple minutes to whatever. But I didn't hate it, but I just feel like we could have probably done without it this week.
Yeah, there's definitely an issue on AEW with allotting time to certain things and not. I'm sure we're going to talk about that too. But when we came back, Tony Schiavone is in the ring to interview with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega got a great reception, well-deserved, obviously, too. And, I mean, they went at Don Callis in this. Obviously, before we get to the Dark Order, you know, they were saying that Kenny Omega has beaten everybody. Same kind of promo. It's basically the same thing that happened last week, almost, except this obviously had a different ending. And this was one of my favorite segments of the night. And so, obviously, the Dark Order comes out. Evil Uno basically says that, says it's incredibly hot here in Miami to get the pop in Miami. And says he's been listening to Kenny Omega. And this is my favorite. And his weird uncle talk about whatever. And then... And Omega interrupts him with a question asking him, what's the capital of Thailand? And then obviously gives him a nut shot and says Bangkok, baby. And then we get the brawl.
I have to cut you off because I really realized how immature I still am, because when he said it, I legit laughed out loud.
Yeah, no, I was
just the
cracking up
corniest
too.
thing, but I was like, thank you. Sometimes you just need that corniness, and Kenny's perfect for it. But
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I made a note of that.
The perfect, he's the perfect, the balance of funny, but also you want to boo the guy.
Man. Yeah.
And I loved the facial hair. I was sad the Young Bucks shaved it this week, but I thought his Triple H beard or Harley Race beard looked great. So
yeah, and someone had said it was the evolution of Triple H's beards throughout his career, which was just priceless. I gotta find a picture of it and show you. It's
I did see something on Twitter about that actually too. So it was so hilarious. So the brawl breaks out, obviously, between the Dark Order and the Elite, with the Good Brothers getting involved. And then, to make the save, there were a lot of Hangman chants and Cowboy SHIT chants. And then, obviously, Adam Page comes out, beats up most of the Elite, goes, after both of the Good Brothers, and then stands there like he's going to hit the Buckshot Lariat, but doesn't. And I loved that touch. And they just kind of have a stare down before Omega is able to escape from the ring because one of the Good Brothers comes back in. So, I guess I'll take this first of just we have been talking about this for a while. There's a whole thread apparently on Twitter that says this whole storyline too. For anybody who's not involved, I don't know where that is. Maybe I'll try to find the link of it and see if Matt can put it in the bio. Or you can also listen to a million other podcasts that have been talking about it too, and we have as well. But before Kenny Omega losing and his whole sympathetic baby face downward spiral, and then feeling like he didn't deserve friends, and then finding the Dark Order, which was such a nice organic thing that they did, and clearly couldn't have been planned, considering I'm sure there were plans with Brody Lee, and this was planned out years in advance for sure. And and then having him be able to be scared about facing for the title again, not thinking he deserves it, and then having him not come out last week but come out this week in defense of his friends in the Dark Order, I thought was done so well. And like I said before, I loved that moment where he was just staring at Kenny Omega instead of, again, he could have hit the Buckshot Lariat without a doubt. Instead, he just kind of stood there, and I thought that was really well done. The exit, there were a couple little parts about this that were kind of clunky, but the crowd was so hot. I've heard some people talking about how they want Kenny Omega to go over in the match with Hangman and then have Hangman do it again. You guys are some sick SOBs. You want even more torture to this poor guy, Hangman Page. I think he should just go over as soon as they have their first match together. I think he is white hot right now. You don't know. I assume he would be, but you don't know if he'd be as white hot the second time. So I'm super excited for this. I assume it's happening at All Out, considering Fyter Fest is next week. But and I don't think they should rush it, obviously. And we're hearing from Hangman Page next week. But I'm hyped for this. I have an audible response whenever I see Hangman Page come out. I'm just a giant, as I'm sure most of AEW's fans are. I'm a huge fan of Page. So I'll throw it over to you, though. What did you think? Did you think this was too soon? Do you think it was done well?
So I do think it was done well, for the most part, and I was so happy too, just to hear like the reception that Hangman was getting, like even
Yeah.
like you said, chanting his name, because you do wonder over the past like 15 or so months, like just how strong everyone's characters are going to be, and just the reaction everyone. So it's just so cool just to see that too, because like you've been feeling it, right? But it's just like cool to get that validation. But the only thing that I was slightly concerned about it regarding like the too soon aspect was, I believe, and I could have been wrong, but at first I thought that Don Callis had mentioned something about Kenny needing an opponent for Fyter Fest, and Fyter Fest is 2 nights, so obviously like next week is night one, and the following week is night two. So part of me, when he was saying that, was like kind of concerned that they were going to rush it and have this match on night two, but I could be wrong, because of course, like my idea is that they would be holding this out and building this to All Out, which would obviously make sense. It's not even that far away. So I could be wrong there, and Kenny just may not be doing anything, I guess, on either nights, or of course maybe next week just responding to Hangman. But I think as a whole, everything was done well, and I'm happy that they didn't really touch, and that they're like you said, like that stare down. And I think I'm torn. I'm gonna hold off on making like my pick or anything like that, because I think we have to wait and see like what Kenny is doing, and how strong of a character and a champion he is in the sense of like reception wise, right? Or if like the bill is just so strong and like the reception is just too much for Hangman, that it's like you're like almost forced to put the title on him. But I don't know, like I'm really enjoying Kenny as champion right now. And I don't know if like I want to see him lose quite yet. So, but then again, at the same time, I don't know if Hangman's liver can last if he loses again, because this guy will just go straight into, I feel like, a depression, and just we may never see him again on AEW. So I don't know. I don't know which would be better or worse, but I'm a huge fan of Hangman as well. So I'm just happy that the seed has been planted, and we're finally just actually building towards it now, whenever it is.
Yeah, 100% agree. I don't think they're going to do it at Fyter Fest. I think the story is too good to put it at All Out for them to do it at Fyter Fest. But I am excited to see. They've got me on the hook for next week. I loved what they did last week with him backstage, and, them basically throwing in his face that that he told Evil Uno that, like it wasn't about that you won or lost the match. It was about how much effort you put in. We were going to be proud of you either way. Just basically being like, hey man, if you fail, like it doesn't matter, we're still your friend. Like that's exactly what Hangman needed versus obviously what happened beforehand. So with the Elite, so this has been like, I was actually telling my fiance, and I think I said this on the podcast last week. I said this feeling that I had as what was going on last week was. I was like, that feeling that you get is like the reward to when a pro wrestling company can tell this nice long-term story like that with the build and all this stuff like that. It's not the culmination yet, obviously, but it's coming towards the culmination, and it's it's like a weird, satisfying, intangible feeling that you get when, you have such a great babyface redemption story like this. So I was all for it. I'm excited to see what's going on next week, and I guess hopefully if we have time we can preview that as well. But next up we had Jim Ross sitting down with All Ego Ethan Page and Darby Allin. Basically, they talked about, their history in the past and other pro wrestling companies and wrestling around the indies and that. I don't know how old Ethan Page is, but apparently the fact that he's been wrestling for 12 years and Darby Allin got so big in his first year made him, I mean, as we're talking, I'll look it up now, but he does not look like he could be wrestling for 12 years, but at the same time...
Right, that got me too. The 12 years, I was like, geez, dude, how old are you? But I guess if you
31.
think about it, like okay, yeah, that's
17. Am I doing my math right? No, that's not right. Is it 19? 19.
Yeah,
17.
19.
God, it's the first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's too early.
Which is, I guess, not too crazy considering you hear about some of these Japanese wrestlers who've been wrestling since they were like 4. So when they talk about Riho, I'm like, that's not
And
true.
Ray's been doing it since he's like 15.
Exactly. I was thinking about that actually, Rey Mysterio. I don't know why I was doing the math on Rey Mysterio's age last night for some reason about something. And and he's like in his 40, he must be 46, 47 now. Crazy, because they were talking about, I was listening to something talking about WCW, and then he was only like 18 or 21 or something at the time. So, yeah, I mean, the dialogue was basically about that, and Darby Allin saying that he was, angry that Darby made it to AEW first, and the only thing I'll say about this is I thought the dialogue was okay. they had to basically plug in the fact that Darby Allin wasn't allowed to touch him again, because I forgot about that stipulation that Ethan Page
So did
made.
I, yeah.
So I'm glad he said something about that. But like you said before, I'll steal your word. It sounded a little bit corny, and this whole thing was a little bit corny. But nevertheless, I'm excited for the match, and it did just remind me that it's happening next week. I don't know why, and maybe you do. Maybe I don't watch the news or anything much, so. They clearly didn't want to do this in Miami. I don't know if it was because the match card was too full or if they were already having a street fight in the main event and they didn't want to, do too much of that. So, or why they just didn't want to do it in Miami. I've heard people talking about specifically Miami. Is there something I'm missing about coffins in Miami?
So I'm pretty sure it was like an apartment complex or like a condominium building, like a huge, huge building that collapsed. And like hundreds, I think it was like hundreds of people were missing for a while, and they're still,
Oh my God.
not to get too morbid, but they're still searching, and doing like recovery methods and things like that. So the speculation was that it was just a little too eerie and too like close for comfort to just kind of have like a coffin match when all this is still kind of going on. I don't believe AEW actually mentioned anything specifically, or Tony did in any interviews, but my assumption as well would be that just with how conscious AEW is of its surroundings, that would be my opinion as well. But yeah, it's pretty serious out there. It's a whole thing, and it's still going on right now. So that would be my guess.
Well, good. I didn't know about that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's funny, and we're gonna talk later, I'm sure too. Some people are so oversensitive about a lot of things, and we're getting mad at AEW for some other things too. Obviously, more just I don't want to call them the haters, but yes, the people. This is probably the same people tweeting about the blackout, being low budget production
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that stuff. We're talking about some stuff later on in the show that we'll talk about for sure. But AEW clearly seems to be conscious and sensitive, and this is the company that had an entire show dedicated to Brody Lee, and that still has his son -1 on almost every
I was about to
Dynamite.
say, exactly,
so it's such a bad faith take about AEW that they are an insensitive company. They just know what they're doing. So. Well, before we move on, obviously, do you have anything to say about the sit down interview?
No, I mean, for the most part, it was. I agree with you. I think I may have liked it maybe a little bit more, but I think Ethan Page really just showed again how great he is on the microphone, and it's just, it's refreshing to see this side of him as well. Because at first I was kind of concerned that he wasn't going to be taken too seriously, or he would start off as kind of more of a joke. But I like that they went into a direct route with Darby Allin and kind of like an edgier and just like a more serious route for him. And I'm really enjoying his promos each week, so I'm here for it. And I think Darby is a good foil for him, like I just said. But who do you think is going to win next week? Really quick, who do you are leaning more towards right now?
Oh, you know who I'm leaning more towards. I don't actually think he's going to win. Sadly, I think this is
Yeah.
AEW is a company that actually does put smiles on people's faces, so I can see Darby Allin going over. I don't know though. I think Darby Allin is so Teflon at this point, and maybe not Teflon. Like maybe not there yet, but he's definitely a made man for the most part. I just hope this is Ethan Page and Darby Allin, and obviously we're probably going to see a quick spot between Sting and Scorpio Sky, which is I always find ironic with the Scorpion Death Drop and Scorpio Sky. But I think Darby Allin's going to go over, but I'm hoping that Ethan Page kind of gets the rub from this Darby Allin momentum, because I think he could be a massive heel. I think he could be a great TNT champion. I even think there's a world title in his future. Like we just looked up, he's not that old. He's only 31. And, AJ Styles is 41 or something, still wrestling in his prime right now. So I'm hoping, I don't know why I know all these ages, but
That's impressive.
exactly. I'm just curious. It's fun to know about. Because some of these guys never look that way. So I think Ethan Page's, especially his eyes, like when he cuts a promo and he takes the sunglasses off, which is such a nice touch. Like what a D-bag, wear sunglasses inside, and the Hawaiian shirts and all that. I think he's just got like star written all over him. So I'd like to see him go over Darby Allin, but sadly I don't think it's going to happen. What about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, we'll see, and who knows? Obviously with the stuff, I'm sure there will be a great Road 2 to watch, and I'm excited for that. I missed this one, but I'm excited to watch that for Fyter Fest coming up. All right, so in regards to time, we'll move on to the Inner Circle: Jake Hager, Ortiz, and Santana versus the Pinnacle: Cash Wheeler, Dex Harwood, and Wardlow. It's a typical 6-man tag match. It's so hard for me to watch some of these matches sometimes because like. I pick apart. It's just like what I do, and it's hard to turn my brain off. And so, like, there was one point where Hager got a tag, and Aubrey Edwards was clearly like looking the other way and restraining the Pinnacle or something, so she couldn't have seen the tag. And they use that all the time about, I didn't see the tag, it doesn't count kind of thing, but they just completely brushed over that. It's a small detail, but for someone like me, that stuff matters. And tag team wrestling in AEW, they got to figure something out with the 5 count and all that stuff. But this was definitely not as much of a culprit as some other matches have been. And the ending was pretty crazy, obviously, post-match. The Pinnacle getting the pinfall and on Hager with all 3 of them stacking up. And then post-match, Conan attacking Wardlow with the Mad Ball. But Tully giving a chop block and the Pinnacle, heading up the stage in victory. So, I'll throw it over to you. I kind of gave my thoughts already, but this was like a solid. They were definitely feeling each other out, and I'm way more excited for the tag team match, which I think is going to be at least 4.25 stars. I think this was a solid 3-star match, and I wouldn't give it much more than that.
Yeah, no, again, I agree with you. And one of my notes was just how great Santana and Ortiz looked. They've really been hitting the gym or something, because their bodies, just especially Santana, they just look amazing.
I thought Hager looked really good too. Maybe it was because he was wearing those street clothes, but I think that fit him a lot better.
Yeah, I was about to say his look, he just looked more of a bad what. So that vibe was just pretty cool to me. And that just really stood out to me from the beginning. But I thought it was interesting as well. Unless I missed it, that FTR and Wardlow didn't get an entrance either. So it was just I'm pretty sure it once you look back on it, probably it's just a time restraint. But
I think
it's just
they did get. Sorry to cut
they?
you off. I think they did. I think, and
Okay.
I don't know if we went to break in between or something. I
Maybe.
wasn't watching. Yeah, I think they did get an actual entrance.
Did.
Maybe it got cut
Okay.
off, but.
Yeah, because that one really stood out to me too. It may have been because I was trying to catch up, so I was fast forwarding through the commercial, so I may have gone right over that part. But because that had stood out to me too. But yeah, just the match itself was just really good, and I like you said, just the whole time I was just thinking how much I can't wait to see the actual tag match between those 2 teams. So I'm just excited for that, to see when that happens, and I'm sure that'll be at All Out, and that crowd is just going to be just electric for that. So I can't wait for that environment. And like you said, if it's anything less than 4.25, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think I remember the entrance just because, obviously we're getting to the MJF Chris Jericho segment next, and I remember the reaction MJF got versus the reaction the Pinnacle got. I just didn't think they were super.
Yeah, because that's what I was looking forward to seeing, just how they got their reaction. But okay,
and there
I'll have to go back.
There wasn't much, in my opinion. It's not probably worth even going back for. I didn't think there was enough of it. Maybe I didn't hear it or I was wrong, but definitely there was a reaction when MJF came out, and perfect transition into our next segment where MJF came out and obviously just booze and all this stuff, and he was so great, blowing kisses to the crowd and all that stuff. And then obviously we went to commercial, but when we came back, we had Jericho and the crowd singing Judas, of course, which again is always great. I'm not gonna lie, and we're thinking about possibly going to that New York show. I think I told you so.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be able to be in the crowd and hopefully be able to be a part of that too. So we rip on him, but it is a nice moment to hear every time. And obviously Chris Jericho's not going to be around for years to come, so we'll drink it in, man, as much as we can. So yeah, it came in, and obviously then we had the fan that jumped in the middle there, or tried to get in the ring and was shouting stuff at both of them. And I don't know if you saw the video. I sent it to you, but if it got deleted, there's plenty of other videos online. The security drags him off, and Chris Jericho tries to punch him, and then the funniest part to me is Justin Roberts grabs him by the leg and pulls him off the stage, and so everybody,
Did he really?
Justin Roberts, yeah, with the assist, it was funny.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And so yeah, so it was, it's sad, and the guy must have been, pissed drunk and whatever else, but he.
Did you hear MJF yelling "cut it, cut it, cut it" right before he got on the ring?
Yeah, I don't, maybe cut the camera to something else, because they clearly did. They cut it to, obviously, the audience. They probably don't want to give the guy any kind of stardom.
Sure. For sure, but that was because at first when MJF was yelling that, I thought he was yelling to cut Jericho's music.
Yeah, me
too. Cut it, and get to the point. Because that's what caught my attention. At first I didn't even realize what was happening, and so that, that's what drew me. I was like, oh wow, but it's just, come on, people, we're really doing this now. Let's just be better.
You know what, though? I'll say the one thing is that means they have definitely really passionate fans.
Oh, absolutely. And MJF is doing his job, so
yeah,
in a
100%.
way it's a good sign, but it's just common sense, people,
Well, I'm just trying
I totally get it too.
Yeah, trying to find the positive out of all the negative. Believe it or not,
absolutely.
Logan Meyer, 23, I'm not all negative. I just tried to find the positive out of a situation, so you can suck it. And yeah, so I thought they played it off really well. They kayfabed it really well with MJF saying, called him, a fat and a fat pack, essentially, we'll call it that. And Jericho saying that he should have let him come in the ring and beat him up. But they had their face-to-face sitting across the table, and I thought that was a nice touch. I liked that. It was kind of similar to the dinner that they had together, the steak dinner, and yeah, so basically, Chris Jericho had a part where he's like, they started chanting Y2J or something, and he was talking about how Y2J's been dead for a long time, and MJF obviously gives him the stipulations. He says he's going to have 4 matches against, opponents and stipulations of MJF's choosing, and then if you get to the 5th stipulation, which, he doesn't even think he's going to get to, I don't know, am I blanking? He didn't tell him what the 5th stipulation was, did he?
No, unless I missed it as well, because I was actually looking, I went back and rewound it, and I didn't catch it either.
Okay, so good, we're on the hook then. I don't mind that. I like that. That Greek mythology stuff was a little bit weird, and Chris Jericho loves his little one-liners. He said something like, and that's not Greek mythology at the end of it, like he's gonna kick his butt, and that's not Greek mythology. Whatever. I'm just like Cody Rhodes is gonna Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho is gonna Chris Jericho, and just let him do his thing for now. He does so much for the company. So, and then MJF says that he has to, in Long Island, they have to shake hands or the deal is off. And Jericho shakes his hands, but hits him with a Judas effect. MJF sold it great, but it obviously didn't, I've seen better Judas effects. But I did like this segment overall. I think they've had better. I think they definitely got thrown off, for sure, by the fans. So, power to them for powering through it without, getting too off track and all that. But just to see the improv, I know it's such a small thing. Again, I don't mean to harp on the fan thing, but just to see the improv by the both of them that felt so natural and was done so well, you could have almost thought that the fan thing was real or wasn't real and was planned because they just did such a good job with it. So I like this overall. Again, was I expecting more? Probably. But they do have me on the hook, and I'm excited to hear about the stipulations. I was hoping they were going to do something. He was going to name something like you can't come out to Judas, or the crowd can't sing along with your song, or you got to come out, whatever, to your old WWE theme, or I don't know. Just something, you got to, whatever, shave your head, or
you have to be Y2J since Y2J is dead, or just you have to, you just have to do something,
something that go after Chris Jericho's ego, because he's got such a big ego, And again, for all that Chris Jericho is great, we all know the man loves himself, which is good. Or something about, go at his... They've definitely said things about the weight, or I've heard a bunch of great ideas across Twitter and other podcasts and stuff like that, and I don't want to take credit for any of them, but just, again, I didn't come up with any of these, but I just thought going after his pride and his ego would have been a lot more interesting than just, you have to have 4 matches with people of my choosing. Okay, I wonder who the 4 people are going to be. Shawn Spears, FTR, and Wardlow.
Well, right, because with Jericho's one of those wrestlers that no matter if he's a face or a heel, his ego is almost more important to him besides the World Heavyweight Championship. Excuse me, his ego is who he is, and he's a master at just either playing it up in a good way or a bad way, just depending on his character at that time. So that totally would have fit almost more into, and if he had gone through 4 different alterations or variations of whatever MJF was going to do, personally, to him to personally attack his ego, and then if the 5th one is a match or something like that, or a gauntlet type match or something, I don't know, but it's fine. I don't want to say I was disappointed or let down by the stipulation reveal, but it's just like you said, I was kind of expecting maybe something different as well. So I think that I probably set myself up there. But it is what it is. And just kudos to MJF too for just being so young, first of all, still in the business, but being able to adapt and not getting completely thrown off when the fan did actually jump the ring and try to get in there, because it's an overwhelming feeling no matter where you're at, because I was there when, not to get sidetracked again, but when at the Hall of Fame, when the guy jumped the barricade and ran into the ring to attack Brett, it was just a crazy thing, and it's just so much commotion and everything going on, and everyone that's involved gets shook up, obviously. So kudos to MJF as well for just maintaining his composure and just going on pretty much like nothing happened after they addressed it. And I think Jericho's little one-liners about MJF's mom were kind of clever, and it's just funny. Again, it's just stuff like that, Jericho can get away with that nowadays, right? Everyone else would maybe be really or just you kind of roll your eyes, but Jericho played it off, and the little again part was just pretty clever. So it's just fun. If nothing else, it's always a fun segment between them.
Yeah, absolutely. They're corny and they can get away with being corny. And the
Yeah,
crowd was clearly into it, so,
yeah,
that's
chanting
how we
"Who's
know
your
if things are
daddy?"
over. Like, even if I'm not super into something, to hear if the crowd is super into it it's good. Again, another huge benefit of having the crowd back. It's nice to know what's over, what's not. And I guess my only question for you too is, if let's say these four matches are not against the FTR and Wardlow and Sean Spears, let's say that he throws someone out, is there anybody who you'd like to see him face? And or what do you think that stipulation is going to be, or what would you have it be if you have any ideas? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, so my first guess, and or maybe my first thought would be, with especially how many wrestlers they've brought in from WWE, maybe have him take like a trip through his past, like physically, like go through like Paul White, maybe go through a Mark Henry, or just like have something like that in a Christian Cage. But I know those are pretty big matches just to give away for an MJF stipulation, so you probably don't want to do that. But just maybe something like that, or I don't know, like if you don't do the Pinnacle, like I really don't know who else you would do unless it's just like random AEW opponent, like wrestlers, like just like a Matt Sydal type thing or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Which of course would be a good match, and I'm not downplaying that. But other than like something with a direct and obvious storyline, I don't know who else you would go against.
I could see maybe he has to face each member of the inner circle.
Yeah,
But then you run
yeah,
into the
yeah.
issue of like the finger poke of doom kind of situation.
Right.
How do you get them to also be competing or something? I
And
don't
when are
know.
they doing these matches? Did he mention they're all in one night, right? Because he said consecutive. You
I
have to
think
win
he
the
just
consecutive matches, or
I
you
don't
have to like win consecutively or something like that.
I doubt they'd give him away all in one night. I mean, they can give Jericho the whole show if they want to, but I doubt they do that. I think they're
Well,
going to
that's what I
probably
was
be
thinking.
week
That's
to
a lot of
week.
time.
I assume maybe it starts after Viter Fest, and I don't know when these guys eventually have their match, because you assume they're going to have their match. I don't know if it'll be, we've been I've been thinking about the New York show that's obviously coming to that, and it is Arthur Ashe, the giant tennis stadium in New York.
Hmm.
I mean, they're going to have some huge headlining matches for that, so I could see that. Maybe the fifth stipulation is that he's got to put his career on the line. I don't know
Because
exactly
yeah,
what they're
because
going.
Jericho did mention that maybe he doesn't deserve to be in AEW if he can't get through the
Yeah, they
stipulations.
definitely planted the seed, and MJF was smiling at that. So who
Yep.
knows? But I could see. I have a little more faith in them to make it their typical. Though it will be entertaining watching Jericho face each member of the Pinnacle. I just feel like that's so cut and dry. I just thought they'd be a little bit more creative with this whole thing. So who knows? But again, sometimes just easy, cut and dry is usually for the best. You don't complicate things
Yeah.
and have champagne beer baths and all that stuff. So who knows?
Exactly.
But overall, again, this segment definitely passed for me. It just wasn't. I expected more. Like I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I expected more. It sounds like you felt the same.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
So next we had Britt Baker's interview backstage with Tony Schiavone. And before we get into what she was saying, because we're definitely going to talk about that, I loved some of the stuff I saw on Twitter. Was so people are just 2021, man.
Yeah.
2021. Just they would have never. I've heard someone say this morning they would have never survived, and I wasn't even born yet, so I guess I wouldn't have either. But would have never survived Monday Night Wars stuff. But before we get into actually what she said, I have so many complaints about this women's division. But what do you think about this match that's obviously happening? I think they said night two of Fighter Fest between DMD, Britt Baker, and Nyla Rose. The feud as a whole. Vicky Guerrero. Like what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed with her first real opponent, and obviously her first feud as the champion, because like first of all, we haven't really seen much of Nyla Rose lately, like the past few months. Like she's like shown up here and there, but nothing consecutive. Like she hasn't really been like blowing through the division unless she's been on Dark or Elevation. And to be honest, like I don't see all of those. Like I try, but like I just kind of run out of time. So unless she's been like running Rampage on there, and I do believe she is like up in like in the ranking wise, so I guess it makes sense. But like it's just I feel like if you were going to go that direction, I would have wanted to embrace Britt more, and if like just turn a babyface, because like if you think about it, like the division isn't really that stacked heavily. So I guess after Nyla Rose, who's she going to have? Like Jade Cargill, heel wise, which would be a good match as well. Don't get me wrong, but like you at that point, you want to be able to just cheer for Britt instead of it like you wanting to, but like knowing you shouldn't because she's technically still a heel. So I think that's kind of bothering me. I'm not really a fan of Vicky Guerrero being with Nyla Rose. I don't think that Nyla needed Vicky. I don't know. Maybe Nyla does need like a mouthpiece or something, but I thought Nyla was fine on her own, just being the monster and just being destructive. And like I really liked how in the beginning when she was going on her like little warpath, like her thing was throwing people through tables. I thought that was cool for like a female to do that, you know, because it's you don't well, you at that point you really didn't see much of like something like that hardcore wise with the females, right? Like it's always the men going through tables or kendo sticks or whatever. So it was just cool, but I don't know. So I'm not as hot on this as I want to be, but I don't hate it, right? Because it's great, and I'm sure this match is going to be much better than all interactions they've had in the past because they've both have grown and matured in the ring so much, and you can tell like their characters like they're truly embracing it more, so they're probably more confident. But man, just as a whole, like I want to be more excited for it, especially with it, like I said, being her first defense and like her first feud, like with as the champion. I kind of wanted to be more into it than I am right now, in that regard.
No, absolutely. I think they're definitely resting on laurels in regards to like just Britt Baker's popularity,
Yes,
but you have to continue to book her well in order to keep that. So I'm with you. I think this is silly. I think I don't think you should turn her babyface. I think you can keep her heel, and if some people cheer for her, that's fine. You know, I think if you're able to get a babyface over enough, then you'll have people booing her, and it's all kind of a statement of how well you are at booking babyfaces. I wanted to see. I mean, like you said, it's not necessarily stacked booked. It's not stacked. Period. That women's roster, at least they haven't shown a lot of people. So. But you have so many babyface challengers, possibilities. You know, you have Thunder Rosa again. You can go back to that match. I don't want to see that yet, but in the future, obviously, Tai Conti again, Hikaru Shida a rematch at some point. You have Red Velvet, who was great in that NWA Championship match. I want Serena Deeb back. Serena Deeb can play either part in any match. It doesn't matter. She could flip like from one match to the other. You've got who else am I thinking of? It sounds like Anna Jade is coming back soon.
Yeah,
like
there's Tai Conti out there.
Yeah, plenty of women to have as babyface challengers, and so I would have loved to be able to see her go against somebody like that. And I'm all fine with Nyla Rose being, you know, number one contender, obviously in regards to the rankings, but I don't know. You've got Jade Cargill there every week, you know, not wrestling because they don't want her to go up in their rankings. They have a whole problem with this ranking system. And sometimes you're going to have a heel versus heel match, I guess, for just the sake of keeping the rankings feeling realistic. Like, it's not always going to be a babyface number one if a heel is a champion. Like, I get that. But as a first title defense, I think this is awful. Like, just not to, you know, sugarcoat anything. This is terrible booking. This has been, like, a needless table bump. Why is Vicky Guerrero wrestling on television? I know a lot of people are talking about Zelina Vega possibly coming. Sorry, guys. Nope, that didn't happen. You know, I'm just disappointed in this. And ironic that Rebel, you know, hurt her knee, obviously, when she was carrying on the crutch for however long. So I hope she gets well, obviously, soon, but they're going to be fine, and Rebel's going to be fine, and Rebel, if Rebel isn't wrestling in the ring, I'll be okay for now, but, so yeah, I hate this. I think this is terrible. I think this is lazy booking. I think this clearly shows that they book all the men's stuff, and then at the end, they're like, oh, crap, we got to come up with something for Britt, and it's sad.
And that's and you pretty much hit it right there. That was my point as well. Like I'm right there with you. Like I don't want Britt to be a babyface. I want her to be a heel. Like I want her to have a long heel run and be just like this dominant champion, and then just over time just have it like that slow, well, not obviously slow, but in a way a slow build, like just having her get to the point where kind of like Hangman and Page, where you can't deny her being like a babyface. And of course, like Hangman's not a heel, but just to the point where like the crowd is just so just responsive to her and just loves her so much, like she has to be a babyface. But like I just want to see that build, and like the roster that they have, where it's not as stacked as maybe we would like, but like it's stacked more on the babyface side than it is heel. So that's why my main, I guess, like disappointment is that they went right to a heel, like with Nyla Rose. Like I don't think that she should have faced Nyla for like a few months. Like I don't know, like maybe go to a Serena D, like you said, and start off that way. And maybe it wouldn't be quote unquote the most exciting for like your casual fan, but it would be a really solid and good match, because I'm a huge fan of Serena Deeb, and I think she's well deserve to have that roster spot. And that would be a good starting point for Britt as well, just to kind of showcase her skills as, as well as this being a champion. So that's kind of where my idea was with it as well. But yeah, I agree with you there, but it's just last week just really, and not to get long-winded again, but I'm obviously, we love Britt, so I feel really strongly about stuff that she's involved in, but I was not a fan of that tag match going into it. I thought it was completely unnecessary. And I thought it was so sad that people weren't so concerned with Reba or Rebel when she got hurt, because it was obvious. Like, the second she got hurt to me, and Nyla had to drag her to the side, and she literally didn't move. I'm sitting there, like, the whole time I was just looking at her, like, and it was just surprising to me that no one really, like, it was, like, no, like, outpouring of, like, concern for her, at least that I saw. But it just kind of plays into to the point where, like, Vicky Guerrero didn't need to be in the match. It was just unnecessary, and and I think that's why it's so sad too, because, like, since it was an unnecessary match, in my opinion, I guess at least, like, it could have been prevented, right? But it is. I kind of did get maybe a sick chuckle out of what you mentioned as well. Just like, she just got off the crutch, right? Like, last week was her first match, like, off the crutches, I believe, and now she's right back on the crutches. Like, that girl, like, it's kind of laughable at that point. But
yeah, no, you could definitely find the ironic humor in it. But I hear you. I think, I don't know anything about that. I feel bad, obviously, if she wasn't getting the support that she definitely deserves. She plays a good part. She plays her
really
job
does.
really well, for sure. She's definitely understated. And I think Serena Deeb is a great shout, because I think, I don't think I'm alone in saying that match at Double or Nothing, was obviously the right decision, but it was they've had better matches. It was an underwhelming match, and Britt Baker's definitely had way better matches. Just, the finish was fine and everything, but most of it was clunky, kind of just messy, and so it'd be nice to get another, we don't get to see Britt Baker wrestle nearly as much now that she's the champion, so it would be nice to just see her, be reminded how great she is in the ring and how great she's gotten in the ring, but of course, instead, we went to Nyla. It just, to me, even if you wanted to turn Nyla Rose babyface, have her turn on Vicky Guerrero, and then give it a couple months to, like, be able to face Britt Baker. You control the rankings. This is, like, predetermined sport, you know what I mean? So if you obviously had this long-term booking plan that Britt Baker was going to be the champion, maybe you don't have Nyla Rose number one in the rankings first for that. So
exactly.
Whatever, we're kind of preaching to deaf ears now, because it sounds like they don't clearly, with that, there was no sole women's match on this entire card, so that shows you where the women's division is. It's in the third hour, if anything.
Yeah, and to touch on that really quick, I kind of wanted your opinion, and I don't know if maybe, again, I'm just biased, but and again, like, the intergender tag match later on, which we'll get to, was fine or whatever, but you have that match, like, out obviously live in front of the fans, but you don't have Britt come out in front of the fans. Like, it was just kind of bizarre to me. Like, she's backstage, your champion, the most over woman on the roster, but you don't bring her out for the first live show. I don't know if that was done on purpose or strategic, but it was just kind of weird to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if they're scared about the reaction it's going to get or whatever is happening, but I'm with you. I think, if they don't put her out live for that, fine. Because, again, it's just we're hungrier to see her next week, and we're definitely going to see her at Fyter Fest, obviously. But, and the reaction's going to be huge, just like it was at Double or Nothing, whether it's boos or cheers. By the end of it, during the match, she definitely had, there was enough cheering for Hikaru Shida where you could get it across that Britt Baker was still the heel in the match, Just because you're getting cheered doesn't mean you can't be the bad guy still. And so, I think that's a weird take, but definitely it's possible. So, I don't know, and this was my low for the week last week, actually, because I'm just baffled by the lack of concern. You hear all this nice stuff about Kenny Omega and Dustin Rhodes and whoever else, like, who are advocates for the women, but, like, clearly not, because they definitely have a lot of swing, and this is, again, Chris Statlander and the Bunny are great, but they don't even have their own match. It's a mixed tag team match, and it's for a feud between Orange Cassidy and the Butcher. So I'm so, like, why can't the women have two matches on the show? Like, there are definitely women who are good enough on this roster. I know a lot of them still need reps, but guess what? Like, the only way you're going to get real reps in front of fans is you got to do it. So I'm with you. I don't watch a lot of Dark and Dark Elevation, but, like, to me, it's akin to if you're hiding the women's matches on Dark and Dark Elevation, why don't you just, like, it's like putting the women's matches on Main Event and Superstars, Why are you
Yeah.
hiding? Again, we want to watch, like, I think you could have, you pointed out Hangman Page there. I think you could have a great Hangman Page storyline being told. Maybe you have a Red Velvet or a Ty Conti lose in a first title defense for Britt Baker, and a year and a half down the line, she makes it back up the
I can see a
rankings.
Red Velvet being
Oh
that,
my God, I
getting
love
that,
Red
that
Velvet.
depressed. Yeah, because she's so, like, her smile, like, she's just so animated, and just like it kind of reminds me of, maybe to a lesser extent, like a Bailey, just a
Yeah.
lovable character and a lovable person, and really, like, is a good performer. And, like, she doesn't get enough credit as she deserves either, in my opinion, or attention. But I could see, like, I would love to see, like, her, I mean, as bad as that sounds, like, lose to Britt and just really start, like, have her play the Hangman storyline in the women's side, you know?
Yeah,
Because you could see it. She's so emotive.
and you could definitely, like, why you can definitely steal that and do it again. You can do it in a different
Yeah,
way,
why
but
not?
if it's putting the women on TV, I'm all for it. So
Yeah.
it's depressing. But with that being said, though, of course, Britt Baker cuts the most. I feel like every single show we go on a Britt Baker tangent, and so good though, like good, because hold them accountable for continuously treating women. Clearly treating the women on the roster different from the men. It's like, without a doubt, there is still a sad, misogynistic view about women's wrestling and pro wrestling as a whole. Though I hear Stardom is really awesome. I haven't watched enough of that, but I have to definitely check that out. I hear that they're doing amazing things there, and it's just not getting nearly enough recognition, kind of like the all women's Evolution pay-per-view. But
Yeah.
speaking of Evolution and that time period, Britt Baker comes on the mic. She talks about just completely selling this tag match from last week about how terrible of an idea it was. Kind of headcanon there. I like that because it was. It was a terrible idea. And talking about how Tony Khan, I'm glad you got your Andrade El Idolo and your blood money because maybe next week they can run an episode of Dynamite in Saudi Arabia. And tells Nyla Rose that she's not winning the title back and she's gonna be sent back into obscurity, and that Dallas is called the Big D, but when she wins, it's gonna be called the Big. I love how Tony Schiavone does it within the DMD. So this, I mean, I saw a lot of things online. I was like, I almost responded to people, and I was like, it's not even worth it, man. The people who were complaining about this, you should be more sensitive to Saudi Arabia and all this stuff. She wasn't coming at Saudi Arabia, the country. She was coming at WWE for going and wrestling there, again, for what was blood money. And I don't know how you feel about the Crown Jewel things. I'm ashamed to say that I've watched them in the past for no reason, because it was some of the worst shows ever. But
Right.
I think more so because at the time I was listening to Matt and other podcasts, and I wanted to be able to listen to the podcast and be able to know what they were talking about. But I thought this was a great dig, and this was hilarious, and I think they should do it more. And I think WWE does it from time to time. I'd love to see somebody come make a dig about something that happened on tonight's show or last night's show on WWE TV, whatever. They probably don't get to, because they don't get to talk about their own promos. It's all scripted for them. But I thought this was hilarious and great and good for Britt Baker. She's in the news this morning. Whether or not she got to be live last night, she's despite the AEW booking, she is continuing to keep herself being one of the biggest talking points of the show. So I thought this was hilarious. I think people are oversensitive and need to relax. What did you think?
No, I'm right there with you. And I had to write it down in my notes, because the line, like, she had this one line that literally made me, like, laugh out loud again. So I had to go back and write it down. She said something pretty much to the effect of, when she was obviously talking about last week, the tag match. She said, known conspirator and danger to society, Nyla Rose, and senior citizen Vicky Guerrero.
That was so funny.
That line, it was just, like, it really just made me laugh. And it was just, like, the simplest thing. But I think it was the senior citizen Vicky Guerrero, because Vicky still looks great. Like, I don't even know how old she is. Do you know how old she is? Like, you're really
I
good
should,
with
right? I'll look
right?
it up. Oh, I actually just did. I think she's in her 50s. It's so funny. In my search history, no, she's 52, because I talked about 52. It. And she's 5'6", in case you're curious. And she's
wow.
Yes, because I said they have her age. Sorry to cut you off. Her age, height, weight, and then they have her build, and her build is curvy.
That's amazing. Well, it just made me think of their t-shirt. I'm pretty sure it's a t-shirt of her and Nyla Rose in, like, their bikinis. It's either a t-shirt or a poster. Like, when I saw it, it just, like, made me laugh out loud again, because it's just like, oh, 2021, man. Like, some things are just hilarious to me. But yeah, man, so that just stuck out. And the Saudi Arabia line, again, like, Britt just, and why not, you know, like, it's, regardless of how you feel, like, it is what it is, you know, like, facts, you know, like, some facts are facts. And it's just like, Britt probably feels strongly about it because her boyfriend or fiance or whatever they are, like he works for the company. So like, I don't know, like some people were like, oh, well, she shouldn't say that in case he ever has to go over there. And it's just like, I don't think Saudi Arabia is going to know that she made a comment like this. Like, I could be wrong, but like, I don't think there's anything, like some people are just kind of extreme, I think. And like you said, like overly sensitive, but I thought it was great. And I feel like, if it was someone else making that comment, like people wouldn't have been as sensitive about it. But since it was Brit, maybe, it just rubbed people the wrong way. But I'm here for it. I hope she continues. Like, I'm not saying like take direct shots like every single week and make that like your purpose, but like if it fits, do it.
Yeah, I think take the shots if they're there.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? I don't think they're ever gonna. I also think this might be a silly point, but when you're in a relationship with someone, your political views and such are probably pretty similar. So
Right.
I have a feeling that an Adam Cole would, if God forbid that ever came up, I have a feeling an Adam Cole would probably, and I think that whole relationship is kind of falling apart, but I think an Adam Cole would probably take a Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn position and probably wouldn't wrestle in Saudi Arabia for quote unquote blood
Yeah, I
money. And
agree.
so have your own opinions on the Saudi Arabia shows. We're not talking about that, whatever. It's obviously, it is what it is and what they're doing and making money off it. But in regards to what she was saying, I think it was great. I think keep yourself in the headlines. Again, if the company's not going to do it for you, like it's all about maximizing your minutes, and she maximizes her minutes like nobody else.
Exactly. And then she has to, like she has to take advantage of every minute she can. So, and right before we move on, like I love the pairing with her and Tony as well. Like I'm a big Tony Schiavone fan, and he just fits. Like it's just a weird pairing. Like it's just one of those things where it shouldn't work, right? Because like we just said, she's a heel, and Tony's obviously like the most babyface guy out there, it seems. And it's just funny to see.
Yeah, he's such a little dweeb, next to her.
I
Like, he
love
comes
him.
across like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's great. Yeah, so next we had, speaking of that promo, next we had Andrade versus Matt Sydal. I always do that, Matt Sydal. And yeah, this was what you kind of expected, except maybe not. Back and forth, obviously, through most of the match. I'm happy it wasn't a squash match, but Andrade did win with a version of, like, his hammerlock DDT, but instead it was more of a hammerlock reverse STO is what commentary called it. Called the El Idolo. And I'll throw this one over to you first. What did you think of the match? And the post-match, obviously, he put his belt around Sydal's arms and hit a double arm cross armbar is what I have here. I don't know what that is exactly, but he put him in a submission hold, basically, with his belt, and that post-match, and then, obviously, the refs had to break it up. But what did you think?
Yeah. No, I thought, like you said, to me, it was what I expected as well. And like I mentioned earlier, Matt Sydal is a really good worker, and he's a good foil to start off on. And Andrade just came out looking like a star. But the thing that stuck out to me was I wish they kind of, and I'm just like nitpicky sometimes and have like weird pet peeves, but I just wish they would have gotten like a more broader camera shot of Andrade's entrance coming out, because I wanted to see like the whole, like at first I thought it was just like maybe just like a shirt or something that he was taking off, but it ended up being the whole suit and the mask and everything. Like I just wanted a full body visual of just like everything, and just like see like the stage and just me. I'm just like I said, I'm just weird, but that just really kind of stuck out to me. Just I wish I could have just gotten that feeling, but the whole match itself was great, and it was just fun to see Andrade again, because I was a huge fan of his, and he was one where I just was just so disappointed with what they were doing with him, like that last year essentially that he was in the company. He was just completely wasted, and he did an interview where they didn't even realize that I think he had like eye surgery or something. I don't want to say minor, of course, but something to that effect. But it wasn't like a broken bone or like an ACL or anything like that. So he wasn't going to be out long. It was like a minimum of like 6 weeks or something. And he was cleared, and I think he had said it was like a few months had gone by, or a substantial amount of time, and they didn't even realize that he was cleared. And it's just so sad, because he's so talented and he looks like a star, right? And it's just amazing to see like how much they can drop the ball on certain people, but one company's loss is another's gain, and I'm happy he's here, and I think this was a great start. And I'm kind of disappointed, like I'm assuming everyone else, that of course Zelina Vega is not in AEW, but shoot, at this point, like, would she even be with Andrade, or would she be with, who we'll talk about later? But all in all, I think it was great, and like I said, I'm just happy to see him here, and I'm curious to see how long it takes him to actually get into the main event title picture. Besides, because he's going to be facing Kenny for the AAA championship, but I'm pretty sure. But I wonder how long it'll take him to actually face Brock for the AEW championship itself, or will he go to like the TNT title? So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't. I'm with you. I think he's obviously probably going to face for the AAA title. I have a feeling, we have my booking as of today, at least this morning, is Hangman's going to take the AEW World title, and then we're going to have the Andrade Kenny stuff, and then he's going to start losing each belt little by little. It probably won't have a redemption story quite like Hangman Page, but definitely good to see. He, like you said, he did look like a star. It's so funny you bring up the full shot. I had the exact same thought. I was like, is he wearing pants that match the suit?
Did you really?
Yeah, 100%. I thought the mask looked great. I thought Andrade looks like just a superstar, and he's really worked hard in his English and all that stuff, and he's definitely being credited with that. I love they have no shame with the subtitles or anything, which is great.
And that's so petty of WWE. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
I'm
okay.
just so over like the language barrier thing. Like ideally, yeah, like of course, like it's easier for everyone if we can understand them. But like if you can't get past that, then maybe you just shouldn't watch wrestling. Like, or maybe you should just embrace it, like it's not a make or break and maybe it's just my opinion, of course, but like I don't see why it's that big of a deal.
No, they had subtitles on maybe it was Saray on NXT, somebody that they had subtitles for, which was again, or Io Shirai, I forget who it was, but they do it for Io Shirai too.
Yeah,
fine.
They do, yeah.
Like again, but in main roster is a totally different zone. But in regards to the match though, I hate to say it too, I was disappointed. I felt like this is Matt Sydal, who, again, I'm a big fan of, and I've always been a big fan of. He has a special place in my heart, because, like, I've said it before, as, like, a little girl, I was a big Evan Bourne fan, which, again, naivety or whatever, at being such a young age, I was like, Evan Bourne for the world title, you know what I mean? And he didn't even get to win the ECW title ever. I think the only time he was Air Boom with Kofi Kingston that they won the tag team titles. But I was a big fan of it, so he'll always hold, like, a nice place in my heart. So, and I know he's incredibly talented. He is much more than just the high flyer now. He's much more than a shooting star press at this point. He's got great submission game, the kicks, all that striking. Like, he has definitely become an all-around awesome wrestler. And it's Andrade. This match should have been 4 stars at the very least, and I don't think it was at all. And it's sad. I don't know if maybe they don't match up well. You never know. Like, you can't, as I say all this, I know, like, you can't really say... You can't critique it too much because, again, you just don't know how well some wrestlers work together. Like, this is not going to be Johnny Gargano, Andrade takeover style. It's just going to be, they've never wrestled before. So, but I was disappointed. I just think Andrade's got very little momentum in comparison to what he probably should have. I think the introduction sucked to AEW with Vicky Guerrero. I think it's silly. It makes no sense why they need to be. Why? Because they both have, like, some kind of, Latin background or Latino background.
Well,
I don't.
Yeah, and since you're on again, I'm horrible, but
no, don't worry about it.
I'll forget. But because you keep bringing up great points, and the part in the match when he was going to do the frog splash in honor of Eddie, you can't do that and be a heel. Like, that's going to get you so over, and people are going to look forward to that, and like that's going to even turn Vicky sympathetic in that light, because Eddie is Eddie. Like, Eddie is one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, and it's so sad, and it's just, you can't call him out like that. That just really stood out to me. Like, I loved it, don't get me wrong, like, I was totally here for it, but like in the same aspect, it's like I can't like dislike you but so much, like how despicable can you be,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thought, I was excited for maybe that back elbow that he does, and I don't think we saw that once. You can do, what I would love to see, you want to talk about getting some heat, why don't you do 2 amigos and then like shake your head,
exactly.
like, shake your finger and then
and
toss them on the ground.
Deprive you of the third, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Deprive them of the third amigo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that, like those little things would be great. I just didn't think this match was nearly as good as it could have been, and it's sad, but sometimes that's just the case, and you can't, get mad at the wrestlers or anything for that. They definitely put their heart into it. Sometimes things just don't. Not every match can be 5 stars.
Too,
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely, but they did. I think they gave them enough. I don't remember exactly how long this match was, but I didn't need this to go over like 10 so minutes. It just was. I'm just glad it wasn't a squash, because again, this is Matt Sydal. Though I'll say they had Matt Sydal talking about how he was like number 5 in the rankings or something, that he had been going wrestling well lately or something like that. And I rarely ever pay attention, but I'm trying to more. They had the dark results at the bottom there, and it was talking about how Jack Evans beat Matt Sydal on Dark. I don't know if you saw that. Like it
No
said,
way.
and so I was like, well, you're literally, as commentaries talking about how great Matt Sydal has been lately, you have that Jack Evans beat Matt Sydal on Dark or Dark Elevation. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but all right, whatever.
Right.
Again, I think I'm probably the one person that actually saw that because I pay attention to these stupid
No,
details.
I've been trying to, yeah, but and he's ranked number 5, and like that's just like, see, that's a whole other topic, like maybe a whole other show. You know how I feel about their rankings, like
Yeah,
I just
definitely have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if he's still number 5. I know they mentioned that he was at number 5, which is great, and I think Matt Sydal is a perfect guy.
for sure.
Keep him up in the higher echelon of the rankings. Never necessarily maybe number 1, but like
He's like a Dolph Ziggler.
yeah, but I would almost say, but a little bit even more credible. Maybe just because he hasn't been around
yeah.
as long. But yes, he's great, and he sells well, and he's just a great worker. I just thought this so funny. It's total sidetrack here before we move on to. I was thinking about how they had the Michael Nakazawa when he messed up at Double or Nothing last year, and they had they turned the slip that he had into like a storyline with that they like greased up the ropes or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, when he slipped. Yeah,
and it was
because
whole
that's when he
like
made his debut, right?
yeah, it was like a whole Dark storyline. Again, I didn't watch Dark then, but I do. I just like little things like that. I'm like, okay, I trust this company. Like they manage again with the fan thing that happened earlier. They always manage to roll with the punches and make the best out of it too. I have faith in Andrade. I have not lost faith yet, obviously, but so far I've been really disappointed. But with that being said, obviously we got a video package of Christian Cage and Matt Hardy, and I don't want to talk about that because they get too much time on Dynamite and all this other stuff. I don't need to waste time on this podcast, but unless you have anything to say about Christian Cage versus frickin' Matt Hardy in 2021 on Fyter Fest Night 1.
The only reason I actually watched the video package when they aired it to see why they were fighting to begin with, because I was so confused why they needed a one-on-one match to begin with. I mean, it kind of made sense, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm sure it'll be a good match, and like, I love Matt Hardy. Like the Hardy Boys are like, my all-time, like up there. But I'm just, I don't need it right now. I hate to say it, but I'd rather see someone else get that time right now.
I don't know, maybe the women's division. That's a good idea.
Yeah, or just something more substantial or with more like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, I still don't really get why we're getting it.
Me either. 100% don't understand why they're doing this in nostalgia, but to me, I don't. This is the way I know I'm not about this. Is I was always more of a Jeff Hardy person than a Matt Hardy person, and again, I didn't follow.
Yeah.
I didn't follow Matt Hardy in the like as to where he went, Impact, and all this other stuff. I didn't and I didn't follow Jeff Hardy either, but. I was never behind the whole Broken thing. I never saw or see what Woken, whatever it was. I think it was Woken in WWE and Broken, obviously, out of WWE. I didn't follow that whole thing, so I'm sure Matt Hardy's done amazing stuff, and I've heard awesome stuff from him. And he's a great hand to have, and he's definitely been doing... Like, I don't hate the Hardy family business thing with all being said, but if this was Christian Cage versus Jeff Hardy, I still wouldn't care. I guess that's my whole point to all this. Is like, it's to me, you've got two... I think Christian and Matt Hardy definitely have a place in AEW, and especially Christian has been it's been nice to see him elevate Jungle Boy, and hopefully they have a feud or a rivalry coming up at some point. But I don't need to see two old guys wrestle in 2021 at this point, and I don't mean to say it like that. I'm not ageist or anything. We've been talking about age all night here. I'm not ageist at all, but this is like, again, we're not in the 1990s, and. They didn't even have like a big feud themselves, maybe for the ECW title, but they were a tag team, their whole thing was their tag teams against each other. You don't have the two bigger stars in the tag teams. I hate to put it that way, but Edge and Jeff Hardy were definitely the bigger stars of both tag teams. You've got like the B guys in both tag teams facing on a major show on Fyter Fest. It just seems, if this goes any more than 5 minutes, Ashley, I'm going to be peed. Really, genuinely. Ridiculous. So this Matt Hardy's my new Sting.
It goes like 15 now.
Yes, exactly.
Just
I
because.
hope, you know what? They're gonna Iron Man match.
Oh yeah.
Anyways,
that'd be great.
Matt Hardy's my new Sting.
Yeah, I'm with you. My main gripe is I just wish there was more story there with it. I just wish there was an actual more depth to have it. Then I would feel it would make more sense to me. Like that's the main thing. I just feel like it's just not necessary.
The story though is that they used to wrestle in 1990.
And that's the thing. Is like I know. Like we all know that's the whole point. Like I don't like we get it. Like that we've seen it. But then like you said, like it's just I don't know. Like we don't need to dedicate more time to it. But yeah, I just wish there was more story, and like maybe Matt loses next week, and this is the start to him being broken again, since the fans are back and he can actually debut that character. Because I did follow that, and I did follow it. I am a fan of it. It always just made me laugh, and I just feel like the story and the time and the effort that he put into it was very, very creative, and like it really did a lot. And I think it did influence WWE regardless of what anyone over there says. But the whole cinematic approach. But if this isn't leading to anything, I'm just like, again, this could have gone to a women's match or something like that. So
yeah, I think this is the pinnacle of the feud. I'm fine with whatever they do. I think the Sammy Guevara Matt Hardy stuff, although it had its issues for sure, was entertaining stuff. Like that again, it's hard not to be entertained by people beating the crap out of each other. But like, I just don't.
And
I don't
it led
know.
to something. It was part of a story.
Exactly, and this is a whole probably another topic for another podcast. But I'm just you've got Darby Allin. I mean, you had MJF and Sammy Guevara main eventing Dynamite last week. Why do you need these two on this? It just doesn't make sense to me. You're already pushing it with the Chris Jericho stuff, which is great. He's a big name, and you definitely need it. I don't think Christian Cage and Matt Hardy, I hate to say it, are big enough names to warrant this. But as I was saying, from one kind of not so great debut in Andrade to an amazing debut, right? We had Arn Anderson starting to cut a promo with Tony Schiavone in the ring, and the lights go down once again. Just low budget crap. This company is just WWE is so much better because they have all
Just
this
a
money.
knockoff.
I know. You know what? They're hiring too many people. That's probably what the issue. It's too many factions. Too many factions. That's why the light went out. And Tommy End is in the ring, or you want to call him Malachi Black, obviously. I don't know. There's people are so special. People are so special. Let's put it that way. Because on Twitter, there's this whole debate. Who was wrong? Was it Excalibur? Was it JR? Should JR not have said Tommy End, or should Excalibur not have debuted the name Malachi Black? But
Who cares?
He put a video up. I don't know if you saw. I think it's deleted now, but he put a whole vignette and he introduced himself as Malachi Black. So people are like, Excalibur. No, like I am. You know what, Excalibur? I'm defending you here.
Excalibur is a nerd. He would, of course, 100%. He probably watched it the second it was posted on dude's Instagram. Like, come on.
So the only thing I would say is maybe they should have mentioned something about the video.
Oh yeah, 100%. Or like when he mentioned the name, he was like, I think he's going by Malachi Black because blah blah blah. Just really quick.
I think if anything, and I hate to be that person, but I would say, I don't know if they needed to introduce him as Tommy End. I don't know if JR needed to say that. I think they could have planned this out better, because I know JR has said before he doesn't like to know, but in some, he doesn't like to know results of matches and stuff like that, because he likes to call them genuine, which is great, because then we get the amazing calls like we've gotten in that Hell in a Cell match, and Undertaker and McFoley, those kind of calls are great and organic, and it sounds way better than probably if he did know the results. That being said, though, this was a little bit bumpy. Nonetheless, though, what a debut. Obviously, he hits whatever he's going to call it now. Hopefully, I love the name Black Mass, so hopefully he keeps that. Arn Anderson takes a black mass, first of all. He bumped kind of weird. He bumped similar to the way, I forget who it was. They've been knocking out old guys a lot lately. Older guys. I'm thinking about NXT. It was LA Knight punched Ted DiBiase, yes, and he took the punch funny. He punched, but he fell straight back. But if you had gotten punched like that, you probably wouldn't fall. Anyways, Arn Anderson took the bump kind of funny, but let alone he took a black mass. So power to him. And then especially with what happened to Mercedes Martinez recently, power to Arn Anderson. And then obviously Cody Rhodes. I thought they did it really well with Malachi Black backing up a little bit. We're going to call him that on this show, with his hands up, and then Cody going to check on Arn Anderson and right away getting hit with the black mass as well. I'm pumped about this. I don't know if you heard about the whole WWE being stupid, not changing his non-compete clause, which was great, because I think that's a whole stupid thing as it is. That's, again, a whole nother topic. But I am so excited for Malachi Black to be in AEW. I thought he'd go to New Japan, so this was really, really awesome to see. What I know we both talked about. I literally, I had an audible, gasp, and there were rumors, but still, to see him and the way that they did it, I thought it was done so well. So what did you think of the debut?
I, of course, 100% agree with you. And I'm going to be honest, they actually got me. So when the lights went out, because at first I thought from earlier in the night, I was like, okay, that makes sense, because JR Jerry mentioned they had bad weather down there, so I was thinking makes sense. It's Florida. There's like a tropical storm warning and all that crap. So I was like, okay, makes total sense. How would I know any different, right? I'm at home. So when the lights went on again, at first I was like, oh no. But then once it was like an extended amount of time, I was like, okay, like what is this? But the last person I would have thought of would have been him, because I was just talking to some people on Twitter about, like, some friends on Twitter, like, about the video that Tommy and at the time Malachi Black had put out, because I was such a huge fan of the video. It was just so well done. Like, it looked like a movie, to the point where, like, I wanted to see like a full extended movie, right? Like, I wanted like a beginning, middle, and an end to it. And so the last thing I expected was him to actually be debuting the same night he drops that video, which in retrospect was so well done, because it's just like the buzz it generated, and then of course like everything from today is it's just amazing. And if that is true, what WWE did or didn't do, lack thereof, by not extending his 30-day non-compete clause to 90 days, then shame on them. And not for nothing, if that's truly what happened, that's kind of alarming, right? Because that's not something minor. With WWE, like, say what you want, but they are on their P's and Q's when it comes to contract situations, and like that's the whole point and the whole gripe with WWE, right? It's like their contracts and like just how absurd some of them are. So if something like that like was overlooked or what have you, or I don't know, like I don't obviously know that procedure, but that's just kind of odd to me, right? Like, especially with how quick they are to just let people go. Like, you mean you don't read through the contracts? And it's just I don't know. It's just kind of strange to me. So if that is true, then that's a whole another story. But whatever the reason is, I don't even honestly care. He's here now. And like you said, I didn't expect him to be in AEW so soon. I kind of expected him to go to Japan as well. But I'm so excited for him. He looks so tough. Like, I'm trying not to curse, but he just looks amazing. Like, I love the continuation of the selling of the eye.
Like, talk about, yeah, like
it's just amazing. And I just like stuff like that. I just appreciate so much. And it shows that he has a plan, obviously, because of the whole video, that like the video kind of like in a weird way explained it as well with the eye. But man, like, I'm just so pumped. I'm so pumped. And I'm of course, like you said, like everyone has to go through Cody Rhodes and start off with Cody, but I think this one is so well done and kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm again, like, although I thought he was going to New Japan first, I'm not going to complain. My big hope to debut into AEW is Buddy Murphy, or whatever he's going to go by, obviously, because, you get your Kenny Omega comparisons and all that, but I was just always a big fan of Buddy Murphy. But this, I'll take without a doubt. This was awesome, and like you said, just done well. Still sells the eye. I mean, this company, I don't, like, the whole contract thing, that just shows you how much they didn't care about Aleister Black. And how, it was just about hoarding talent, probably. And so I'm happy to get to see him in the ring doing what he does best. He is somebody who is so invested in his own character and character building and storytelling and all that stuff he was doing on SmackDown too. Like, he is somebody that recreates himself when he has to, but also just really, really cares about his own character development and all that stuff. And that goes such a long way with fans, because again, here we are and we're all so invested. So I think Darby Allin's definitely got competition on his hands in regards to those weird videos.
Yes, absolutely.
But
imagine a feud between them, though. Just
yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. It looks like he's going to be a heel because Cody Rhodes is a face. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you. If I see a match between Malachi Black, it's going to get. It's so funny. I've already gotten used to Tommy End, but Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, I'm probably cheering for Malachi Black. But
yeah,
I think he'll definitely play the heel, and I'm just excited to see what we got next. Well, for time purposes, I'll tell you, we had that footage from Ricky Starks and Taz from earlier today, and that whole FTW championship match, and yeah, that's going to happen at Fyter Fest, I think, obviously. I think this is, writing on the wall of they're just trying to get the FTW championship off of Brian Cage, because Taz no longer trusts him. The only thing I thought was a little bit weird here, maybe it was a setup, was but it was a bad setup thing because nothing happened, was that Ricky Starks and Taz were kind of going at it. I figured if this was a whole plan to get the FTW title off Brian Cage, probably Ricky Starks wouldn't be, at odds with Taz. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that before we obviously go to the mixed tag team match?
No, that stood out to me though as well, and I'm kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a swerve, maybe it'll all play out in the end, but I'm oddly interested to see where this goes. But it's just weird because no one else seems to care about the FTW title but them, so it's like I just want it to actually, mean something going forward too. If they're going to be fighting over it, once whoever wins it or retains it, like I just, would he do something with it going forward?
Oh, I kind of like it. I think it's kind of a running joke. Nobody
Like
cares about this.
It's just like a weird thing. Yeah, maybe that's the whole purpose.
And obviously we had the mixed tag team match next with Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander versus the Blade and the Bunny. I never thought I'd be saying that. It's so funny.
Right.
I can't get over, like, I'm trying to seriously analyze a match by someone named the Bunny, which is fine. What if that's your whatever? But it's just funny to me. Funny Bunny. But yeah, we talked about this a little bit. Obviously, I thought, Chris Statlander hit a 450 splash on the Blade, so the women kind of showed out in this match, I thought, and Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy winning by pinfall. I think the whole women being able to hit the men, but the men can't. Like, I'm not saying I don't know how I feel about intergender matches. I think I'm still scarred from like some ECW trios tornado tag match with Edge, and I forget who else was in it. It was maybe even Terry Funk, Tommy Dreamer. It was messed up. I feel like I'm still scarred as that from like a kid, but I do think that if it's a DQ that the man is going to hit or the men hit the women, it should be a DQ that the women hit the men. Just another lack of bad that bugs me in every company. But other than that, I don't have many thoughts on the match besides Chris Statlander looks like in impeccable form since she's come back, and we cannot sleep on the Bunny either. I can't say that seriously, but the Bunny's been awesome too. So whatever, we talked about kind of how this was stupid and they should have a women match on this card, but do you have any other thoughts on the match, obviously, as a whole?
No, and again, I just thought the same thing. I thought that Chris Statlander was just the breakout of the match. It was just the one who really stood out to me. So, like you said, it was fine, and the whole purpose of it was for like the men. But I think Chris really stole the show. So in that respect, in that match, so I enjoyed it. It was fine.
Hopefully we see her, maybe get a title shot at some point. Go up the rankings and get a title shot. I'd love to see that, or win one of those, Maybe they have a battle royale thing or whatever, like they did that awesome tournament with the Japanese side too. That was huge. Yeah. People are super into that. Maybe they do something like that. That to me, as long as if you do, it's like so simple. If you do the same stuff you're doing in the men's division for the women's division, it's that easy, know. And so maybe they do some ladder match or something to get it a number one contendership that they never win. But still, I'd love to see that match.
Yeah.
So, we had Jungle Boy getting photographed with the trophy. That was weird, and it was
for a long time.
Yeah, for a time. This is a company that needs to work on where it's allotting time to. But and then Tony Schiavone interviewing America Top Team. This was what was this? I don't know. Again, maybe I'm not cued in, but with Dan Lambert going into the ring. First of all, they chucked a fan out of the ring, but Dan Lambert can just go in the ring. And basically talking about how AEW sucks and reminiscing on the good old days and, back in the 90s when I was a boy, we played with rocks is essentially what I heard the entire time. And then we had Lance Archer hitting the blackout on him, and then that was it. This was such a waste of time for me and did nothing for Lance Archer. Lance Archer is dead and gone at this point for me. I don't know about you, but so do you have any weird thoughts on this whole weird thing?
No, well, yes and no. I really didn't know who he was, honestly. I knew who Amanda Nunes was, but I did not know who this other gentleman was. And the one who got in the ring. I guess Dan Lambert. I'm sorry. I'm not really in the MMA world, but I'm familiar with the main names and stuff like that. But I was lost, but it was kind of weird because what am I supposed to boo him because he likes old school wrestling? I like old school wrestling still. I go back and watch it. So am I not supposed to like old school wrestling? I get the whole point was he's saying it was better then than it is now, essentially. But when he was just saying all the different eras that he liked, I was well, yeah, I like that too. I'm not gonna boo you right now. Of course, once you start crapping on AEW, it just felt forced too at that point too. It was just okay, get to the point, but it was just too long, and I feel bad for Lance Archer, but I feel and oddly enough, I feel he'd be one of maybe those rare guys who would maybe be better in a WWE, because with how much they love the bigger guys over there, and a Damian Priest is getting pushed and stuff like that, and just he was, but just different guys statures like that, for whatever reason, like I just in my brain, I just picture him there eventually. But not saying that he should. I don't know. Of course, not get fired or anything crazy like that. But just maybe like once a contract expires or something, or just I don't know. But that's just. When I saw him out there last night, that for whatever reason, that was like one of the first things I thought of. Like I just kind of pictured him in like a WWE ring for whatever reason.
No, that's a good take. I didn't think about that, and I think you're totally right. I think he probably would thrive better in WWE, whatever that looks like, because he's definitely not thriving in AEW.
Even with Jake the Snake, like I think it would be cool to have Jake back over there for like a small like run to end his career there. I mean, I don't know, but
he's old now too.
Yeah,
I can't imagine him going. Not Jake, but Lance Archer even too. I can't imagine him going anywhere. I think he's probably pretty much done after AEW. I mean, he's been wrestling for a while, but he served his purpose for a while. I think they need to kind of give up on I don't know, like the squash match did nothing for me, and then he just angrily stormed away, like took his ball and went home because he lost the TNT title. That's not a babyface to me, but total side note before we go to the main event. I know we're running low on time here, but
okay.
I don't know if you saw the Dark Side of the Ring with Jake the Snake Roberts.
No, not yet. That's like one of the last ones I haven't seen.
It's crazy. I mean, like, it's wild. He is a wild story, and kind of disgusting, obviously, or honestly, with his family and all that stuff. I won't get into it. It's definitely not PG content, but just get ready, I guess, if you're gonna watch that, because it's fat. Like, I felt sick to my stomach after it. But,
really?
Yeah, no, definitely crazy stuff. But, anyways, the main event, obviously, the street fight, Eddie Kingston and Penta versus the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, for the AEW World Tag Team titles. And this was crazy and definitely awesome, fun to watch. Running power bombs through the table. The match essentially kicked off with a pile driver off the apron into a table. So that was from onto Matt Jackson from Penta. So that was wild. We had thumbtacks. We had a bunch of Frankensteiners, incredible moves, super kicks, all the like. And the match basically finishes with Eddie Kingston getting tacks shoved into his mouth and then super kicked. You got to trust a guy for sure with that. I mean, you think about the realness of that. If he swallowed one of those, all that stuff, crazy. Eddie Kingston is a lunatic, but the Young Bucks did get the pinfall, and they retained the AEW World Tag Team titles. So I love this main event. It was exactly what it needed to be. It was great. I wasn't expecting a 5-star match. I think they kind of had that beforehand, so I'm glad that they changed it up with the street fight this time. And I thought it was great. What did you think, obviously?
Yeah, no, I feel like the street fight stipulation really just added to this match and just really enhanced it as well, especially with the people who are involved, with Eddie Kingston especially. Like, he just thrives, obviously, in those type of environments, and that dude is just like, he's willing to do anything in any match, and it just shows, like, even though he loses or he has lost like every title match he's been in, but like he just really puts his all into it, and he makes you think like maybe he has a shot, like maybe he because he's crazy enough to do whatever, right? So like you never know, like there's that slimmer of hope that maybe he'll pull it out somehow. But the Young Bucks as these characters, I love their look. Like, that's one of the things I look forward to on AEW each week. It's just seeing, like, the jorts, and, like, the shoes. It's just, like, I love seeing how ridiculous and obnoxious they're going to look. And it's just, like, I love the heel character. I'm so happy they fully embraced it. I'm so here for it. It's perfect. It's exactly what they needed. And it's just the perfect fit with Kenny. And just everything in that respect just ties in so well together. I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Just so entertaining.
No, they do such a good job, and
yeah.
I would boo them if I was there in person. So they're doing their job for sure.
Absolutely, because they're ridiculous.
And I thought, like I said before, the finish of this match was great. So overall, I mean, I know we had a lot of little complaints, and we definitely always want to be able to talk about the women's division and advocate for them. But like, especially with the Malachi Black debut, I think overall Road Rager was a success. What if you were going to grade it? What would you give it?
Yeah, I guess I'd go with a B.
Okay.
I'd go with a B+, a high B, or like an A- maybe, in that range. But I definitely enjoyed it, and maybe it's just since it was the first show like back in front of fans and just that whole environment, because it kind of felt like a pay-per-view vibe in a way. It was just like everything was taken seriously. Everything that was out there was taken seriously, or like in their mind had its purpose. But I didn't hate it. Maybe that's a little strong, and maybe if I go back and rewatch some things, maybe I'll change my feeling. But coming off on it, so I pretty much enjoyed it as a whole, even though we did have some gripes.
No, I'm with you. I probably would have said a B+ too, and I think the fans definitely helped. I like what your point was there. It definitely did feel like a pay-per-view, and I think that's just because we're not used to having fans back on regular shows.
Yeah.
But we're obviously next week Fyter Fest Night 1, and the week after that Fyter Fest Night 2. I mean, with Great American Bash last night, which in my opinion was a
Oh.
great show overall. We are spoiled for choice
Very
with
good.
wrestling right now. No complaints here, and obviously a crazy main event to top off the show. So there was nothing that we're coming on the show here just to flat out bash, I guess. I
No,
think
not
even
at
the
all.
mixed tag team match had its good spots, especially with, like we said, with Chris Statlander. So I'm with you, probably B plus for sure. And Ashley, as always, I know you got to get going. Thank you so much for popping on here this morning, and we'll have to get you back, maybe Fighter Fest Night 2, something. We'll get you back here ASAP, and we've obviously got All Out coming as well, so.
Yes, no, thank you so much again for squeezing me in. I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll definitely, maybe night 2 would be a good time.
All right, perfect. Thanks again, Ashley, and we'll talk to you next time. Up.
Sorry, Mimi, I just had my earbud
No,
on
okay.
that note. Sorry about that.
We
But yeah,
almost
yeah.
made it through the whole show.
I know, the whole thing. I know.
All right, we'll
right
talk
to
to you
the
next
last minute.
time.
All right, Mimi, take care.
Bye.